Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Author of Your Own Story Show. And I am super excited to have Paul Webb on with us. Paul is an international high-performance coach working with clients all over the world. And as we're actually filming this, the World Cup is going on, which is relevant for a lot of reasons. But Paul is an ex-professional football, or as we say in America, soccer player, as well as an ex-gym owner and strength coach. So I've already told him not to tell me anything that's going on right now during the World Cup. So lips are sealed. But Paul, thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate that.
It's an absolute pleasure, Doug. And thank you so much for the intro and the invite onto your show.
Absolutely. So, Paul, obviously, what we're talking about here is becoming the author of your own story, and a concept that was kind of baked in my head back in 2007. Tell us a little bit about your story and how did you become this recognized international coach?
It's not a long story, but it's one of those where it's been constant evolution, right? So I was brought up in the 70s. We had no technology like we do today. So very much most of the kids around wanted to be football players, soccer players, right? So that was the dream. The dream was that you played for your team, and it was what we did all day, every day. We played soccer, we played football. I walked around with a ball under my arm everywhere. Yep. So I was really, really fortunate that I had a little bit of talent. I also was really, really fortunate that I had a little bit of desire. And was able to develop as a football player and become a professional. Sadly, Doug, I got injured and had to give up, as so many people do. And it left me in this quite unique position where the only thing I ever wanted to do, ever, suddenly I couldn't do. Yeah. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. So you kind of try a couple of different things. Nothing really gels with you. I didn't really want a real job sort of thing, because I've been living the dream. I've just been playing and being paid for it. So a cousin of mine was a little bit of a hero to me because he was a British powerlifting champion at the time in the 70s. And he was a big guy, hugely muscled, big beard, tattoos, rode a Harley, real badass, Yeah. And everyone in the family was like, we love Kevin. Yeah. And he got me into kind of powerlifting and training and that kind of thing. And I kind of loved the strength aspect of it and had a little, conversations with some athletes and that sort of thing. They said, you want to go to America? America's the place to be. There was no fitness or strength industry in the UK at the time. So I'm going back into the late 80s, early 1990s. Yeah. Went to America, did some internships at some gyms, come back to the UK, tried to get the strength training thing going. No real associations or clubs or athletes were using strength coaches back then. So I kind of had to almost invent it from the ground up, really. So I ended up just building my own facility and started, coaching the athletes I know, coaching their families, coaching their girlfriends, building a client base. That led me to having 3 different gyms, authoring a couple of books, traveling the world a little bit. It was a good time. And got to a point in early 2010, 11, something around that sort of time, maybe 2012. I kind of had done with that, if that's the word. Mm-hmm. I was doing a lot more different types of coaching at that time with clients. And so sold the gym and kind of reinvented myself again.
Awesome. Well, what I like about, there's so many things I like about that story, and it's so familiar to me, is first of all, what a lot of people probably listening to this don't know is that personal training really didn't exist really until the late 80s, right? It was just, it was the biggest guy at the gym and, the most attractive girl was doing something. So that industry was so new as you were getting into it. So you're really at the forefront and had to carve your own path.
Yeah. There was no set path. There were, there weren't even any commercial gyms really, the big David Lloyd gyms, the Fitness First that we have over here, LA Fitness, that kind of thing. They didn't come till like sort of the late 80s, early 90s or mid 90s even. So they're all independent gyms. They were very underground. You either went to a bodybuilding gym to build a bit of muscle. You went to a powerlifting gym to, get stronger and compete in powerlifting. You went somewhere and did Olympic lifting, or you went somewhere and did strongman. Yeah. There was no... I can remember writing training programs for people. We never wrote fat loss programs. That wasn't a thing. Yeah. People never went to the gym to lose fat. They went to the gym to get stronger or build muscle.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And when we talk about following your own path, I mean, you had to really forge that path. And again, you mentioned, reinventing yourself for not only a second, third, but maybe even fourth time in your life, and having to come to that. A lot of people listening to this will say, hey, look, I've got the career, I've got the job, and the 2.1 kids, which I always talk about because I'm never sure how you can get 0.1 kids, but, I can't get out of this. But yet here you are, and you've consistently reinvented yourself. Was that always a challenge for you, or do you think that's something that you just naturally have a knack for stepping into?
I think it's a bit of both. I like trying different things. I've always been the same. I was always the kid that was always doing his own thing.
Yeah.
I never really liked following convention, if you like.
Sure.
So that was one thing. I think I was naturally curious as a kid. I think that's the best way of putting it. I wanted to know things. I wanted to understand things, and that curiosity leads you off on different paths. I think that was mostly that. But then there was other stuff. I mean, I got injured when I was playing football. So that out of that despair and tragedy, I had to reinvent myself. Or what was I going to do? There was no choice really. I built the gym. I had the gym. I was trying to make it as a strength coach, but you couldn't really build a business on it back then. Mm-hmm. So you kind of had to reinvent that. And it got to a point where you had to reinvent that. And it was almost out of necessity, really. Yeah. And I think that what tends to happen with people is most people want to improve themselves in some way. I think that's a natural human thing, that you want to grow, you want to develop, you want to improve. But by the same token, it's also natural to feel resistance and to feel fear. So the two aren't mutually exclusive. They battle against one another. And usually it's the fear and the resistance that wins, because you have a degree of comfort. Most people in the modern world have a roof over their heads. They have food on the table. They have internet. They're comfortable. Yep. So to come away from that comfort and to take a risk when you feel resistance and fear, and you put yourself out there to be ridiculed, most people don't want to do that. So they come back into this safety net, this safe harbor, and say, well, I can't quite do that because it's okay for you because blah, 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 blah. And so it goes on and on and on. So I think something tragic or unexpected happens and people change. Unless they have a real desire. Other than that, I don't think they do.
Do you think, and I think totally agree with you, by the way, but do you think for yourself, and the reason I'm unpacking this for a reason, but do you think for yourself that you kind of burnt the ship, so to speak, or painted yourself into a corner where you had to make that leap?
Yeah, I think so. I think there were a couple of times, certainly, when I did that. Certainly coming back with no job, no savings, coming back from the States, no job, no money, and saying, I'm a strength coach, and athletes going, you're like, what am I going to do now? Yeah. So you kind of have burnt, and you just have to, I made a lot of mistakes, Doug. You run businesses, you're an entrepreneur, that it goes with the territory. Oh, yeah. And when you're flying by the seat of your pants, it can be a really stressful time. It can be, you learn on the job, so to speak. And I had to do that. And, sometimes I got it right. Often I got it wrong. But it was all a learning curve. And I kind of, I like that challenge. I like that feeling, that uncertainty. I kind of like that. I always have done.
Okay, great. And it's a common thread you see with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Is that uncertainty. Yeah. And it's also one of the reasons I think, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that athletes tend to become business owners more often, I think, than I see in other trends. And I think it's that competitive nature, the willingness to push yourself and take risks and be outside that comfort zone. I think
so. And there's something similar about, being a sportsman and running a business. As you say, the traits are quite compatible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for you right now, and let's talk a little bit about you so people can get inside and I can see people or think already about people listening to this and saying, okay, that's great for Paul, and he's traveling the world and he's coaching high-end clients, and that's fantastic. But I got to make money. I got to have a job, and I got to have some income coming in. So if you don't mind sharing with us, how do you afford this amazing lifestyle that you have? And by the way, when we talked originally for a pre-call, which I do with everybody, you were walking down the street, how was your day, Paul? It's amazing. And, so you're living this dream, but but how do you afford to do so? Like, how do you run a business?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was in the gym the other day and someone come up to me and was asking me what I was doing, what I was up to, where I was going, because they had seen me in the gym. They'd seen me not in the gym when I was in Saudi Arabia, and then they saw me back, and then I was away in Europe. And basically I told them, and they said, you just do what you want. And I was like, yeah. But it's kind of, it took 20 years of work to get there.
Sure.
And when I sit down with people and talk to them about this, fundamentally the first thing I say is, look, if you have responsibilities, if you have bills to pay, family to feed, you've got to make sure that's done first. Mm-hmm. That's the prerequisite, right? Yeah. When your responsibilities are done, then we can look at other stuff. So, I'm going to be completely transparent with you. It wasn't always as easy as I make it seem now. Mm-hmm. I went through a breakup and a divorce a couple of years ago that was really quite tough and really quite devastating to all of us. It kind of left me on my own at nearly 50, questioning what my role was now. I'd been a husband. I'm still a father, of course, but I'm not there full time. What do I do? How do I make a difference? How do I move forward? How do I make my children proud of me? What legacy do I leave them? So again, it was kind of that almost tragic circumstances that enabled me to, step forward and say, okay, I'm really going to go with this now. This is my dream. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel I'm called to do. These are the people I want to work with. How do I make it so? And, I make sure that my responsibilities are met, and then I go out and do what I want.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I know you also you do individual coaching, you run
Yes.
programs online.
Yes.
You have a 30-day Facebook challenge.
That's correct. Yeah.
That you run as well.
Yeah.
So you're doing all this, you're using the power, you're leveraging the power like we are right now of the internet.
Yeah. It's fabulous. You mean look, I'm 2 weeks into a 30-day Facebook challenge. I call it creating real magic because I love the term real magic, right? Because let's face it, who doesn't like a bit of magic in their life?
Yeah.
So I usually have about 200 people in this group. I've got 213, I think, in this particular one. And we are at day number 8 today. So 1.5 weeks or so in. Yep. And the results they're getting are fabulous, because for me, the idea is that people already know this stuff. People already have this ability, but we just put blocks in the way. We tell ourselves we can't do it. We have doubt. We come from a place of lack. We come from a place of no self-belief. And if I can move them from doubt to belief to knowing very quickly, then anything is possible. And Absolutely. That's kind of how it starts. That's the whole remit of this Facebook thing. So they get daily videos, a little bit of teaching, a little bit of journaling, and a challenge to do every day. And then we get catch up with the live, and then we go from there.
Wait, this is crazy. So what you're telling me is you provide massive value. You change people's lives for the better before you even ask for anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because here's the thing, right? Yeah. I can give people massive change in 4 weeks, right? And we're already doing it in a week and a half. I've not asked for a penny for these people, right? So someone like my dad would turn around and say, oh my God, you're working for free.
Yeah.
But I'm giving tremendous amounts of value and serving at the highest level. At the end of the 4 weeks, I will say to these people, look, you've done magnificently well. But what can happen is when you stop having accountability, you start to dip. You lack a little bit of motivation. The discipline goes a little bit. You start to fall back into old habits because you've been there for a long, long time. And you can find yourself back where you started from, or worse, a few weeks ago. So let's jump on a program. We'll keep the same sort of format. We'll do one video a week. We'll do a live video a week. We'll give you accountability. We'll give you intention. We'll give you desire. And we'll take you deeper and deeper and deeper and have you have permanent change going forward. And, that's what we kind of do. And, that's how it works, really. So what tends to happen is, because I've given all this value up front, at these 200 odd people, you get the vast majority of them coming over to the paid program. Mm-hmm. So it's all about giving that value first. You have to give it first before you can receive it, I think.
It's just, and I was saying that sarcastically when I was saying like, oh, amazing. It is amazing, but it's also, and I'm saying that for all the people listening to this that are looking for a side hustle or, that want to step away from their 9-to-5 job, it's go out there and give away your gifts for free. Like Paul is doing, one is nothing feels better than making massive impact on people's lives. I mean, truly, I think that's why you and I both work with people one-on-one at a high level.
Absolutely.
Is they let you in and it feels good. But by delivering massive value, then people are like, hey, look, Paul has changed my life for the better. He's done so much. And that value exchange is already happening. It's like a relationship.
It is. And also, the other thing is, for my high-end one-to-one stuff, not many people can afford that.
Sure.
That's quite an investment, right? But I want to help as many people as I can. The reason that I charge them sort of fees, one is to work with that sort of client and make that big impact, but it gives me a lot of freedom to work with these people in free groups.
Yeah.
People who might not be able to come into my world otherwise. Yeah. So I can then go in there completely free of stress, completely committed to serving them and helping them with their problems, which to them are as valuable as the problems of as a royal or a Hollywood elite actor or whatever you want to say. That's why I do it. And as you say, and as we've said before in our chats, it's all about serving as many people as we can.
I love it. That's how you and I connected, and I love that about you. So thank you for doing that.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, on behalf of everybody. So moving forward, I mean, I'm just trying to give people ideas as you're inspiring them clearly, and I'm trying to help them to step into that as well as we talk. Give me a couple tips. You got somebody, and I ask this question a lot. There's somebody listening to this or watching this, and they're kind of on the fence, that kind of, toes are over the ledge.
Okay.
What would you suggest to them? Give them a couple words of wisdom or things that you would suggest. What pushes them over to take that next step?
Well, I think we've covered a couple of them. I think one of them is no choice. Some people get themselves to a position where they have to change. If they don't change, then something quite terrible could possibly happen. Usually that can be a divorce, in my case. It can be an illness. It can be a possible bankruptcy. It can be an illness. A multitude of things can do that. So that's one reason. Another reason is, as I said, I truly think people have this desire to change. Mm-hmm. I think people really want to be the best version of themselves, to coin a cliche, but they don't know how. And I think one really important distinction here is that we all have the same ability. For me, another word for genius is persistence. If you read or look at the research of someone like Anders Ericsson, mm-hmm. who is the world's leading expert in expertise, he has spent a lifetime researching genius, right, and mastery. And he will say that there is no such thing as a natural genius, that we all have to work at whatever we want. Now, in certain circumstances, like if you want to become a world-class violin player, you have to start really young, right? I couldn't do it now. But if I'd started at 2 or 3 years old, potentially, if I'd put the effort in and the work in and got the right type of deliberate practice, I could have done. So we all have this same ability. And I think it's just the doubts that we have around ourselves, that we look at people that are doing something now and look at what they're actually up to and say, I can't do that. And what we don't realize is that they spent so many years, they started from where we were, because we all start at the same place.
Yep. And
they spent all these years building it up, and they kind of look at the end result and say, I can't do that, therefore I'm not. And I think once you overcome that and say, look, you may not be able to perform at that level, but you can certainly be a lot better than you are now.
So true. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I had a conversation with a newer coach just yesterday, and it was asking me like, wow, Doug, you're just naturally at it. And I just said, hey, look, I put my 10,000 hours in 10,000 hours ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We are, for me, Doug, I subscribe to the fact that we're all students.
Oh yeah.
Where no matter how gifted or good we may appear to be at a particular skill, if we go at it with the attitude that we know everything, we suddenly are coming from a place of lack, fixed mindset, where we don't develop anymore. Mm-hmm. And when you're not developing, you're going backward.
I couldn't agree more. So true. So true. Well, Paul, tell us, you've given us so much already, but to give us a couple of Paul Webb's success habits, what are some things that you're doing on a daily basis? And I call these things, these aren't the, get a massage things. These are the brush your teeth things, right? Things you just do all the time that have made you so successful.
I think a really big one is I'm a big fan of counting your wins.
Ooh, okay, great.
So we're very, very good at remembering and going over and repeating things that haven't gone well, right? And we say to ourselves things like, oh, what did I do that for? I can't believe I went there. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I wore that dress.
Yeah.
All these kind of things. We're not very good at giving ourselves credit for things that have gone well.
Yes.
So what I want people to get into the habit of is congratulating themselves for doing things that we can constitute is a win. And that could be anything. If you want to drop some body weight and you're not really being that healthy, a win could be drinking some water. A win could be going for a walk around the block. You know, it doesn't have to be a huge, huge thing.
Yeah.
A win could be sending someone a text and saying, I appreciate you. But we need to start rewiring these neurons and cells of recognition in our brain that are wired for negativity. And by celebrating our wins, however small they are, reinforces what we're doing. So if we decide we're going to make a change in an area and we start counting wins in it daily before we go to bed, you charge up your subconscious mind overnight with positivity rather than negativity. And I think that's a huge, huge thing to start to do for people.
What an excellent tip. I love that. Now, do you recommend people journal that, write it in their journal at the close of the day? Are they just consciously thinking about it or sharing it?
Whatever works.
Okay.
However it works. I'm an author. I write, so I write it down. But I also say it out as well. Okay. Before I go to bed, I'm grateful, thank you, and then I say the win, and I get that. You want to emote it. It's no good just saying the words. You have to have emotion. You know, all this manifesting, creating, law of attraction and stuff, it's not just about putting a thought or intention out there. It's about having the emotion behind it, because that charges it back towards us and makes us, you know, aware of all the opportunities that lay around us all the time. So I want people to get emotional about it. I want them to feel something about it. We live in a sensory universe, so have a sensory experience around it. But please, please, please give yourself a pat on the back and congratulate yourself, because you're all doing magnificently well.
Awesome. Such a great. And would you say, Paul, that's that's getting into that, building those neural patterns, right? Those neural patterns coming through. Would you say that's similar to somebody who wants a new car? They want a red sports car, and they're like, you know what? Nobody in my town has a red sports car. I want it. And as soon as you set your mind to it, all of a sudden there's red sports cars everywhere.
Yeah, because of the way the brain works, right? You have something called a reticular activating system.
Yep.
That filters what your conscious brain believes is necessary from your subconscious into your conscious. Mm-hmm. So you decide, you put emotion behind it, you have an intention to have the red sports car, you start seeing them everywhere. They were there before, they weren't important to you. Yep. So when something becomes more important to you, you start to notice it more. So counting wins, having an emotion behind it, means that this is more important to you. So you will actively go and look for more wins.
Love it. I absolutely love it. And so everybody listening to us, take Paul's advice and start not tomorrow, but today. I think that's a fantastic one to go with. Paul, what are some of your personal goals and aspirations? You're out there, you're helping people, whether they be in Saudi Arabia, the United States, the UK, all over the world. But what are some of your personal goals and aspirations for the next 6 months or a year?
That's a great question, because my goals kind of are quite floaty, you know, because I like things crop up all the time and I'm off. I'm kind of a bit of a free spirit. But you know what I really want to do in the next couple of years? I want to have a wonderful little bookshop, right? Yep. Where I have really random books, all the books I love to read. People can come in, get great coffee, read the books, play some board games, listen to some jazz.
I'm coming.
You're invited.
Let me know when your grand opening is, and I will be there.
Yeah. That's going to happen, because I've always wanted to do that since I was yay high. So that's going to happen within the next couple of years.
So cool. I love it. Well, I love great coffee. I love jazz, and I'm sure you and I have a similar taste in many books.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And so when we're talking about someone being successful, and obviously you gave a number of great tips, you know, being positive, looking, you know, you get what you think about. And if you're always looking at wins, you're going to become more of a winner over time. It just naturally happens. You mentioned a number of other things, but what are two habits or things besides those that you think makes the average person successful?
I think there are two very important things you need to do. I think you need to have a long, honest, non-judgmental look at where you are now. Right? So you have to audit where you are now. You need to know where you're starting from.
Yep.
And then I think you want to use your incredible, amazing, higher sensory faculty of imagination to visualize and see without limits, because in the world of the fullness, in your thoughts, there are no limits. There are no boundaries. It's infinite. Right? So use that to imagine this incredible thing that you want. So you know where you are, you know where you want to go to, right?
Yep.
Sit with that and feel good about it. Now, there's one big thing with this. It's the middle, right? The gap.
Yeah.
Right? So you then, by having your starting place and having this higher intention, you have this gap. Mm-hmm. And then you get to work filling the gap, right?
Love it.
How you fill the gap, that's the little habits you do every single day. That's the little habits that take you in that direction that you do. And you do them, and I would recommend that you do them first thing in the morning. You get up, you do your habit for the day, you're done. You're taking yourself closer. It becomes part of your morning routine, if you like, your morning ritual. That's what I recommend because it works. But if you want to do it later on, you do it later on, but it's whatever else. But that's the nuts and bolts of it for me.
Awesome. It's such a great tip. And I think a lot of the things that you're bringing up, I can already hear it because I get so many messages, and I'm sure you do too, Paul. People are like, yeah, they're the little things, but it's the little things done consistently. Would you agree that really add up to the big ones?
You know, I teach people a little formula, right? Mm-hmm. And it goes simplicity plus consistency equals success.
Mm. Simplicity plus consistency equals success.
You do simple things every single day in the direction of where you want to go, mm-hmm. and you'll eventually get there.
Love it. And it's so true. And you're proof positive of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When I say, and turning the tables a little bit, but when I say the word, be the author of your own story, what's the first thing that comes into your mind?
Craft your own story.
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
We evolved through stories.
Yep.
In order to survive in the wilderness of the savannah where we evolved from, there were no resources to go and look to see what you had to eat, to see what animals you had to avoid, to see what berries were poisonous, to see when the weather changed and you'd have to go further south. The only way you learned this stuff was through stories. Stories are an integral part of us as a species. Mm-hmm. Right? You've only got to look at the work of Joseph Campbell. Yep. And his work around the monomyth or the hero's journey to understand that. When I teach clients, I do it in stories. I tell them stories. So I might be talking to them about, belief and intention. And I might tell them the story about the Wright brothers. And everyone told them that they were lunatics and couldn't do powered flight. They were bike mechanics. How could they have a heavier than air powered aircraft and do it? But it existed already. In the quantum field of possibility, everything exists. Mm-hmm. Right? So stories are a way to overcome people's natural resistance around something.
Yes.
They are how it's what we do to get kids to go to sleep at night. We tell them stories. When we meet our friends in the pub, we talk about stories.
Yep.
They're woven into the very fabric of our society.
Absolutely. Do you consciously write your own story?
Every single day. I sit down and work. I do that same thing I just told you a moment ago. Yep. Where am I today? Where am I going? What's the gap?
Awesome.
What am I filling in? So I will plan my week out on a Sunday, and I will have 2 or 3 things to do every day. And I will journal, and I will write, and I will craft the story every single day. And I have fun with it. I play with it. It's play. It's fun. Yes. One of the things I try and get people to do is to play more. Mm-hmm. Play. They want to build a business, play with your numbers, play with your systems, play with your clients.
Yep.
You want to build health, play with it, play with the food you eat. It's joyful. Do it with a smile on your face. You've already won. You're here at the best time ever to be a human. The odds are astronomical that you're here, so enjoy yourself.
Absolutely. Work sucks, but play is fun.
Play is fun, yeah. If you play every day, you never work a day in your life, right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's what we do. As entrepreneurs, as business owners, as coaches, we are playing all the time.
Yep.
That's why I wanted to be a footballer. I wanted to play.
Yeah.
And it's never left me, and it never will.
Well, you can just tell with the energy that you have and the passion when you talk about these things. It's very inspiring. And I actually do the exact same thing you do on Sundays. I map out my journey for the week and plan what I want to get into and get into that playful mindset like a child. Look, I have a 1-year-old, so it's easy for me because everything looks fun to him, and it's fun for me to go into that realm of possibility.
It's absolutely. I mean, my kids are a little bit older. My youngest is now 10. Yep. But we still play. When I'm with them, we go out, we have fun, we laugh, we roll downhill. I'm just like a big kid anyway.
Yeah, aren't we all? I swear, when you strip away the masks and you get people together, we all revert to 12, 14, somewhere in that area. And it's amazing. I mean, just watch 4 old friends get together, especially men, get together. Within minutes, they're back to being 14-year-old boys.
Back to being kids. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and we lose that as we get older. And I think that's a real shame. I really do.
Yeah, I do as well. Well, do you have any tips for people that are losing it? Besides, obviously play, but for people that are losing, kind of lost that idea of playing. And I hear this from business owners all the time. Like, Doug, I went on vacation, but I don't know what to do with myself because I've lost the reps or the repetition on how to have fun.
Oh, that's a really tough one because sadly, so many people suffer from that.
Yeah.
I would say that, certainly be more childlike. Mm-hmm. One of the great things that I like to talk to people about is look for the wonder in everything. You know how kids say, why? What does this do? What does that do? Why did you do that? That insatiable curiosity, that wonder of everything. To look at a leaf and wonder how magnificently it transfers sun energy into fuel for it, and it can grow and develop and die and then grow again. And just look for the wonder in it. It's everywhere. And when you come from that place of gratitude and awe, suddenly you start to open a whole realm of possibilities. That's probably how I would recommend you do that.
And a great way of doing it. And I totally agree. It's like a grateful practice. So some people say, oh, I just don't have anything to be grateful for. I'm like, I'm talking to Paul Webb through a computer, which I have no idea really how it works through the internet. No. If it's broke, I couldn't.
And you don't know how it works, but when it doesn't, you go mad.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy, right?
It's like when the Wi-Fi all of a sudden stops. You're like, why isn't the internet working? You're like, whoa. Gosh, what a blessing it is to even have that ability to be able to do this and connect with somebody, outside of your community, which I think a lot of people, if you're listening to this, I mean, I constantly get messages from people, and it tends to be more men than women who are telling me that I just can't find like-minded people in my community. I can't find people who are trying to grow. And I think that's such a pile of crap because the power of the internet, proof positive, you have 200, I think you said 13 people in a group for a challenge. That's 214, including you, of like-minded people that have connected through the power of the internet.
And I know about 3 of them.
Yeah.
So 210 of them are new to me.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I've not had to work particularly hard to get them.
Yeah.
I have had to put out there, an intention. I've had to go on social media. I've had to do videos, all stuff that's quite uncomfortable, really. Let's be honest.
Sure.
But I've done it. I've given it my absolute best. I've served. I've given value. And as I say, 245, I think, signed up on a list, out of which 213 actively went into the group and are working away.
By the way, that conversion ratio is awesome.
It's great. But I think that when you really are yourself, when you're really authentic, and when you're really delivering that message, and you get the right people in front of you,
yes,
there's no reason not to be.
Yeah,
I think that happens as a matter of course, to be honest.
I think you're spot on. You're doing all the right things. As someone who actually owns 2 marketing agencies, I can tell you I get to see behind the curtain small but also very large companies, and not very few are doing as well. And that's a testimony to what you're delivering, though, is what I would say. And to clients of mine who I work with, and a lot of them are watching this, and I tell them very bluntly, and as people know, is if you're having the opposite results, it's not your marketing, it's what you're delivering or lack thereof. Because most people want to go, just pay me, So that's a testament. So give yourself for your grateful practice tonight or your happy practice.
That's one of my
wins.
That you have no idea. That will be certainly one of my wins. So thank you. And it means an awful lot coming from you, Doug. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Paul, you've been gracious with your time again, and I want to thank you. As we're wrapping up here, I have two questions for you. But the first one is, any parting words of wisdom or advice for somebody who's listening to this and is inspired and wants to take action to better themselves? Anything that you want to say?
Do it. You can do it. You have the ability to do, be, or have anything you want, as long as it complies with the laws of the universe and is true to you.
Love it. Love it. Words of wisdom. Write that down, everyone. Something to live by and actually put on your computer. I used to have a Post-it note that said, be, do, have versus have, be, do. Right. So love it.
That's pretty good.
Be, do, have. And so, Paul, last but not least, where can people find you?
People can find me on www.paulwebbcoaching.com. And also I'm quite active on social media, on Instagram, Paul Webb Coaching, and on Facebook, just Paul Webb. You can find me there pretty much every day.
And guys listening to this, Paul and I are friends on Facebook, and I follow Paul, and he puts out great content and videos, inspiring, whether he's relaxing and sharing that with everybody or sharing wisdom. So always delivering value. So Paul, thanks again for doing exactly what you do here, is being authentic, being real, being honest, and also delivering huge value. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me. It's been an absolute honor.
Absolutely.
I have a question for you. What if you could transform your life for the better in just 90 days? Would you do it? Our 90-Day Game is an online program and community created for people like you who are ready to make a shift and take those dreams and goals they've been talking about for years and turn them into a reality within 90 days. Go to authorofyourownstory.com/90-day-game and turn your goals into reality. And don't forget to be the author of your own story.